So let's see if it comes on. Let's see. Stream starting. Receiving your content. It's coming on. It's just waiting. Okay, it looks like we're live now.
Yeah, I can see it. The black screen is popping up.
Cool. Let's
are you playing Kingdom Hearts 2 at the same time? I mean, Kingdom Hearts at the same time, or is this just background?
Nah, it's just a background. I'm gonna do some stuff on it. I'm just gonna see if it tweeted it out that the stream has started. And looking, of course it did, but of course it used the wrong message typically.
Mm.
So
wait, I thought they took away YouTube being able to not.
Not
yet.
No,
that's 31st. Whoops.
Yeah. Let me just do a quick tweet out for people. Hearts storyline.
My eyes.
Ahead of 3. Okay, there we go. Just tweet that out. Right. So I've been setting stuff up, and I'm gonna have to throw some images up in a bit. But yeah. First off, hello everybody who's joining in, and hello Phantom for agreeing to do this with me.
Heck yeah, I haven't seen you guys in like a year. And also we both reviewed Super Smash Brothers.
Yes.
So that was that, yeah.
So for Kingdom Hearts, everyone knows it's kind of an insane plot line that spans over like 12 different games.
Right.
Even though it doesn't seem like that when you look at it. But ahead of all of this, I just want to say to anyone who's watching that, like, won't be tolerating any Kingdom Hearts 3 spoilers.
Yeah,
don't be a dick at all to people.
Right. We won't spoil Kingdom Hearts 3 either.
No, I mean, I don't know anything about it. I've been staying as blind as I can do. I just know that it's meant to wrap everything up, so
yeah,
we'll see if they can pull that off.
The Xehanort saga.
Yeah. So, before I start all of this nonsense, first of all, a disclaimer. I have played every Kingdom Hearts game except for that mobile phone one, but I do know what the plot is. However, because I haven't played it, I'm not. If I do get a name wrong or I do get a certain event wrong, like a little minor points, don't kill me for it. It's by far the most unimportant. Well, we can't say that until 3 comes out, 'cause it's definitely important.
It's definitely connected in some way.
But,
you just don't completely know.
So if I get some kind of events wrong, or if I get a name wrong, and I'm going to try not to do that, but just in case, I've given the full warning.
Unchained Key isn't finished either, right?
Yeah, that's the other thing. Unchained Key isn't finished, so some things might not get answered in 3, but may get answered. Yeah, and so it's complicated. But before I begin, Phantom, why don't you tell everyone what your sort of experience is with Kingdom Hearts? Like, what games have you played? What part of the story do you... Don't go into full detail, just let everyone know where you stand.
So, I found out about Kingdom Hearts by just finding the disc in my uncle's house, and what was it? I tried to play Kingdom Hearts 1, but the copy was messed up, so I could only get to the Tarzan world and never finished it. So I know the story of Kingdom Hearts 1 because I did research on it and like far in the past, like through looking at the Kingdom Hearts wiki and just looking at the cutscenes. So I know what happens in Kingdom Hearts 1. But I played Rechain of Memories. I played the games out of order. I played 2, then I played Rechain of Memories, then I played 358 over 2, then I played Birth by Sleep only for a little bit, but then my PS3 broke, so I couldn't finish it.
Oh no.
I skipped Recoded completely because the gameplay wasn't fun.
Yeah, that's fine. I think a lot of people do.
Yeah, and I don't think it has as much to the story other than the ending, so that's why it doesn't really do much for me. I don't think it does much in terms of story for the series. And then I did play Dream Drop Distance, and I don't have a PS4, so I haven't played 2.8.
2.8, right.
Oh, 0.2.
0.2, Fragmentary Passage, Prologue, Final Chapter. Yes.
Oh man.
Only in Kingdom Hearts. So, all right then. So, I guess we'll get started. I'm just going to make sure I've got the chat up so I can see it. I've got a whole host of pop-ups up everywhere just to see everything. This would be one of those instances where it would have really helped if I had a second screen, but alas. So,
are we gonna start from like Kingdom Hearts 1, or are we gonna start from like the beginning?
We're gonna start from the beginning. Like,
okay.
And as part of that, I have all the nice logos up here. So I'm gonna click them up in order that they are relevant as I go through them all. And if you have any questions for me, Phantom, or any plot points that don't quite make sense or something you want elaborated on, just let me know.
Okay.
So the first game in the series, or if you can call it a game because it's actually more of a mini movie, is Kingdom Hearts Key back cover. And
which I haven't watched.
Yeah. So Key back cover goes over the plot. A long time ago, all of the world was whole, and there was a guy who was in charge of everything, who was just called as like the Master of Masters, who was this dude who was super powerful, and he could see into the future. And he did this by taking one of his eyes and putting it in his Keyblade.
What the? So is that Xehanort's Keyblade?
Yeah, so that's the Keyblade that Xehanort will eventually get. But he used this to look in the future, and he wrote a book of prophecies. And the book of prophecies will outline everything that's going to happen and ends on some massive war that will end the world. And so he decided that, you know, it's a prophecy, you can't beat it, but I'm going to give all my apprentices different jobs that they're going to need to do while this is all going on, to really just emphasize that things are hopeless for everybody. Of course, the apprentices don't like this, but they all get given specific roles, and they all get given a copy of the book. I'm not going to go over all the apprentices, because most of them don't really matter, but the only one that really does matter is Ava.
Which one is that?
She's the I'll put it on the screen now. She's the fox girl. Okay. So she was chosen to sort of lead the next generation of Keyblade wielders.
Right.
Which she does with a guy called Ephma, who is this young boy who's super nice and a really good Keyblade wielder, and so she sets him up as like with this secret group of trainees called the Dandelions that none of the other foretellers know about. And so she's training him up in secret ahead of the Keyblade War, so that when everyone starts fighting, there'll be a group of people who will leave the battle and survive.
Right.
So there's also one more apprentice, a sixth apprentice, whose name is Luxu, who we haven't seen his face of. And he was given... So he was given the Master of Masters Keyblade and a special box that we don't know what's inside of.
Cool boy.
And he was tasked with just taking both of these objects and keeping them safe, because as long as the Keyblade exists, the Master of Masters can see the future. So only if that Keyblade gets destroyed will he not be able to see anymore. So it's up to Luxu to keep it safe for like ever, basically.
So can Lux, if they have the Keyblade, can they also see it into the future?
No, apparently no. It's just the Master of Masters. So Luxu disappears, and during all this conflict, they discover. The Master of Masters creates this thing called a Dream Eater, which are like little animal creatures
from Dream Drop
Distance. And the main one is called Curathy.
The little cat?
Yeah, the little cat thing. But it's meant to be like a sign of good. So there's good energy and there's darkness. And it's up to the foretellers and the Keyblade wielders to keep a balance of both. But if darkness becomes too strong, the Dream Eaters change into darker versions. And they start noticing this creature called Dark Curathy, who suddenly shows up. But they don't know where he's come from. All it is a sign that someone is leaning too heavily into the darkness.
But when it's Curathy?
So Curathy is the name of the main one of them.
Okay,
but so Dark Curathy is like another Dream Eater, but a dark version of it, an evil version of it.
But do they exist at the same time, or is it like
yes,
two different?
they exist at the same time.
Okay.
So every Keyblade wielder has their own Chirithy, is the idea. Oh. So when a dark Chirithy appears, it means someone's Chirithy has turned evil, and that means that someone has turned evil.
Oh, okay.
The problem is they don't know who it is, because there's a one page from the Book of Prophecies that's missing. That's, of course, the very crucial page between when everything's peaceful and when all hell broke loose.
And one of the foretellers is probably the one with the dark Chirithy.
So that's what they think. So they think that one of the foretellers is a traitor and has ripped out the pages of all of the books. And they all this causes them to start infighting. And what ends up happening is one of them decides that the only one who can answer this is the Master of Masters, who decided to just leave. Leave and let all this happen. So they try to bring him back, and they think the only way they can do that is if they bring about Kingdom Hearts.
What the?
So everyone starts sort of collecting darkness in order to bring Kingdom Hearts back, which is kind of making the prophecy come true, because that's what ends up leading to the Keyblade War. Because everyone starts fighting over Kingdom Hearts in an attempt to bring the Master back, and all the foretellers end up killing each other.
So is the Master Xehanort?
We don't know who the Master of Masters is. It's almost definitely not Xehanort.
Why wouldn't it be?
Well, I'll explain. So what ends up happening is all the foretellers end up fighting, and there is one character who's just a player avatar, who you'd think for just an avatar wouldn't be important, but you'd be wrong. So the player avatar is he's friends with Ephema, and he's also meant to be recruited to the Dandelions, but then he decides he's going to fight in the Keyblade War anyway.
Okay.
And so he nearly gets killed, but after the war happened, so Ephema took all the other Dandelions and they ran away. And so after the war, they come back, where they find the body of the player, like on a near-death status.
Right.
So they take him and they hide him in Maleficent's world, which I can't remember the name of, but the Sleeping Beauty world.
Isn't that Hollow Bastion?
No, it's not Hollow Bastion. It's the Sleeping Beauty's actual world, because Hollow Bastion's where Maleficent will end up, but that's not what Sleeping Beauty's world is actually called.
I don't remember. It's in Birth by Sleep.
Yes, it is in Birth by Sleep.
What it's called. It's so boring.
So
that one specifically is really boring.
So the player character and his Chris Chistany, man, I can't pronounce that, are hidden there, and they're constantly waking up in, like, having repeated nightmares. And the nightmares is what Kingdom Hearts Key is. Key Unchained is. So Key Unchained...
Wait, whose nightmares?
The player character's nightmares, the avatars. So what Key Unchained is it's just a remake of the original... It's a remake and not a remake. So Key Back Cover is the backstory that follows the web browser game.
Yeah.
And then Key Unchained repeats the web browser game, but it's actually not a remake, it's a sequel. It's the player character having recurring nightmare over the events of the browser game.
Wait, so do you mean that Kingdom Hearts...
So Kingdom Hearts Key Unchained and Kingdom Hearts Key aren't technically the same game.
Well, no, I mean that, but wasn't it... Before it was called Unchained Key, it was just called Key. Because they updated the mobile game to have a different name.
Yeah, but that's a different... So that's a different thing, which I'll get to in a second. So Kingdom Hearts Key... Kingdom Hearts Key Unchained is the pseudo sequel where it actually is happening afterwards, but it's just the player character recounting the events of Kingdom Hearts Key in his dreams, and slightly different stuff is happening with Dark Chithany. You find out that the Dark Christiny or whatever is coming from the player character, and it's like his nightmares are creating this. And so they're having this internal struggle where they're constantly waking up and going back to sleep. And Ephema is trying to save him, along with a bunch of other characters who are now the new, like, foretellers, the new leaders. So these foretellers are setting up, like, trying to rebuild society, and they want to try and save the player character as a part of this. And it's just because the player character, because the Dark Crystal is his, he's got some kind of the key to everything, and also he's just their friend, so they want to save him. So they set up a new group of leaders, all chosen by Ava. But what happens is one of them, who's called Strelitzia, who I didn't think was important enough to make an icon for, ends up getting killed by someone, and we don't know who he's getting killed by, who she got killed by. But so that presumably means that one of the 5 new leaders is actually a traitor. Again. And so we don't know who it is yet, and it hasn't been explained yet, but it's the sort of stuff that's going to be happening in Kingdom Hearts Union Cross. And
that game.
Union Cross is what they renamed the mobile game, but Union Cross is a sequel to Unchained, when they decided, okay, now we're going to do new content, so let's just stop retelling the events of the browser game and do a new story.
Okay.
So even though Union Cross and Key Unchained are technically the same game, Union Cross is actually new content. Okay. And is set after this. I can't remember. I can't remember if it's still set within the dreams of the player character or not. But it might. The gameplay sections might be, and the story might be set outside of it. But the key things to take away here is that Ephema is one of the leaders, and there's 2 more called Scold and Brain, who. So Scold is just some girl who was important in Kingdom Hearts Key. She was just one of their friends. Brain is a new character that we don't really know anything about. But the other 2 that are important is a boy called Ventus. Who ends up becoming a main character in Birth by Sleep. And then a character who we know by the name of Laurium, but is almost 100% Marluxia.
Okay.
It hasn't been... Nomura has gone out of his way to state that Laurium and Marluxia are not the same person.
Well, I mean...
But if you understand, Kingdom Hearts stuff, then
it's the same person.
Yeah, it's just like how Roxas and Sora are not the same person, but they are.
Different people. But you know what that means.
Yes.
Wasn't like Sheen's showed off as well?
I think she was actually. Yeah, she was. She was shown off as El Rena actually, and that was in like the latest update. Which makes sense considering Marluxia and
they're back.
But they work together later on. So and there are some other Organization 13 members who we don't know where they came from. So they probably came from this time period as well.
Wait, who else don't we know about?
The guy who plays the guitar. We don't know where he came from. Yeah. And there's one of the other guys.
Luxord, I think.
Yeah. So we don't know anything about them. One thing that happens in Union Cross is that, which I'll explain when I get to that point in the story, but Maleficent appears, trying to find the player character.
Okay.
In her own world, of course, and she gets fended off by the player character and someone else whose name skips me right now.
Someone else.
It could be Yen Sid, but I don't remember exactly off the top of my head. It was like the latest thing they did in the mobile game. But and I'll explain how this all makes sense because in the next game is Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep.
Yeah.
But before here's why this can't be Xehanort, okay? So Kingdom Hearts Union Cross and all of this, Luxu, who survived, went off to form, away from all the dandelions, away from everyone else, went to go form his own organization of Keyblade Masters. And Master and Xehanort, who I'll just find here. So it's Xehanort, good old Xehanort, and Master Ericus are the apprentices of Luxu, or potentially the apprentices of Luxu's apprentices. This is the thing. We don't know how much time has actually passed between Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep and Union Cross. But considering there aren't any other Keyblade wielders around, it must be quite a while. And especially because we know that Xehanort became a Keyblade apprentice when he was a young boy, and Birth by Sleep takes place when he's an old man.
Oh, God. Yeah.
And so what happens is Xehanort and Ericus, who were apprentices together and both became masters, were both interested in both the light and the dark. So Ericus was very stout to the beliefs that, you needed to have a balance of light and dark, but light was always the better one. Whereas Master Xehanort always thought, well, actually, considering more darkness is needed than light, surely darkness has the greater power. And he tried experimenting with using the darkness instead of running away from it. And this ended up getting him expelled. But he stole the Master's Keyblade before he left. And he went away. And so he disappeared for ages. And he started coming up with ways to find Kingdom Hearts. So he figured out from the Keyblade War, which was the last time that Kingdom Hearts actually appeared, like the only time we know it's actually appeared, that it came from like a clash of 13 pieces of darkness and 7 pieces of light clashing together to create Kingdom Hearts. But it's not necessarily the only way that it can be created. Another way is by having someone who is of equal light and darkness to clash with himself, and that will form the Keyblade. No, so what he does is he gets Ventus, who has no memory of himself or anything like that, but Xehanort can tell he's a powerful Keyblade wielder, and he starts training Ventus. So we don't know what happened to Ventus from him being a leader in Untold Cross to him just having in Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. So he starts training Ventus, and he's trying to train him both to be good and bad at the same time. But it doesn't work. Ventus isn't like reaching that potential.
So is that where Vanitas comes in?
So Xehanort, who's been training him on Destiny Island, which is where Xehanort's from originally.
Oh shit.
He decides that he's going to just unlock Ventus's heart and release all of his darkness, which is what makes Vanitas. And then he's just going to train Vanitas up as someone who's pure dark, and then find someone else who's pure light, and get them to fight, and hopefully that will do it. But what happens is, as Ventus is dying, Sora gets born at like exactly the same time. So Sora gets born as Ventus is dying, and Sora for some reason has a particularly strong heart. So he reaches out to Ventus and gives him a piece of... Sora gives Ventus a piece of his heart, so that Ventus doesn't die. And so Ventus survives, which Master Xehanort is shocked by, but then realizes that his original plan, instead of having just one person of half good and half evil creating it, he can just have the two good version and bad version fight each other when they're both strong enough. Which is
Ventus's final boss.
Yes. Thing. So that's why he gives Ventus to Ericus in Birth by Sleep, because he knows that Ericus can train him up to be good in light. So he does that, and for some reason Ericus is like totally okay with Xehanort, even though Xehanort stole like their Keyblade and was talking about dark shit all the time, but he's totes okay with it. And so Ventus trains with 2 other Keyblade wielders called Terra and Aqua. And they're the other protagonists of Birth by Sleep, and they're slightly older than him. Terra could potentially be Ericus's actual son. It's not confirmed. It's just a rumor. Like,
I think it's just that Terra sees Ericus as a dad.
That's definitely the case.
That's how it always came off.
So what happens with Birth by Sleep is they're all So they're all training, and they take their master exam, and Terra falls to the darkness because of Master Xehanort's influence, because he just happens to be a guest judge at the thing, and Aqua beats Terra. So Aqua becomes a master, and Terra doesn't. And in his frustration, he runs off.
Like a baby?
Yes.
God, that's so stupid.
He throws a strop and runs away, and Vanitas convinces Ventus to chase after him. and then Aqua has to chase after both of them, and so they run around for ages trying to solve everything, and a handful of stuff happens here, and I might have to start making these boxes smaller soon. So Terra runs into Maleficent, and Maleficent learns about the power of darkness through Terra, and so that's what sparks her interest in what darkness is.
Okay.
And so she starts like, this looks really powerful, maybe I can use this for something. So she starts looking into the power of darkness and all this thanks to Terra. Xehanort's watching all of this unfold. They also, I can't remember who it is, it might be Aqua. When she goes to Toontown, there's a thing going on where it's like the best person of the day award or hero of the day award. And Pete,
I think that might have been Ventus.
It might be Ventus. So Pete's trying to win this, and you find out that he's causing all the problems and then running in to solve it to make himself look better. So Minnie Mouse gets pretty pissed off and banishes him to the Shadow Realm.
Is it actually called the Shadow Realm?
I think it might be. Or like the world of... No, it's not the world of darkness because that's something else, but she definitely banishes him to a world that's just nothing but purple fog and tells him to think about his actions. So Minnie just has that power. So Minnie can just banish people like Yugi. And so Pete gets sent to the Shadow Realm and Tully is rescued by Maleficent at the end of the game. And while all this is going on, Aqua runs into Mickey Mouse. Who...
Aqua, okay.
Yeah, so Aqua runs into and befriends Mickey Mouse, who's also training to be a Keyblade Master from Yen Sid, who I'm guessing, because we don't quite know when Yen Sid became a Keyblade Master, my guess is that he's like one of the only surviving members left of the Dandelions. And that might give us a good idea of what his age was. I mean, he could potentially... Yen Sid... reason. Reconnection successful. Okay, sorry, I don't know what happened there. It must be... I suddenly got like a shot down in my internet, and I'm not sure why. But
that's weird.
That's weird. Hopefully, yes, yeah.
Are you live?
No,
I can hear you.
Yeah. It looks like I'm live. Yeah, sorry about that, everyone. I don't know what happened there. I think my internet just kind of died and rebooted again. Yes, I got taken in by the darkness. So, what ends up happening in Birth by Sleep is that Ventus and Vanitas both clash at the Keyblade Graveyard. After everyone makes up and Terra gets tricked into killing Ericus, they all go to take down Xehanort at the Keyblade Graveyard, which is where the Keyblade War took place. And you find out that Xehanort's plan is that he's too old, but he still hasn't figured out how to get Kingdom Hearts. So he wants a new body, and he wants to transfer his mind into that body, which is what Terra is. But because he's so lost in the darkness himself, Xehanort, he needs to be also lost in the darkness.
Lost in the darkness.
Which is what he's been training Terra for. So Terra and Xehanort. Yeah, Terra and Xehanort fight, and from that we get Terranaut. And but Terra's spirit manages to survive in his own Keyblade armor.
Lingering Will.
Yeah, which is called Lingering Will, and manages to Xehanort, who runs away. We start the stream, and hopefully it's fine. Okay, so I think we're live again. Sorry about that. If this keeps happening, I'll just have to keep jumping up. It should connect all the videos together, so it'll still be somewhat easier to follow. So, going back to what we were saying, you got Terra, Ventus ends up knocking himself out and being put into a coma.
Right.
And so Aqua and Mickey, Aqua takes him away to where they were trained, which is like, I can't remember its exact name, like World of Departure, and that becomes Castle Oblivion, a big maze-like labyrinth to hide Ventus inside. And then she goes to stop Terranaut or Xehanort, who has then gone to Radiant Garden, which is where a guy called Ansem the Wise is researching the darkness, and he plans to go and steal all of that and figure it all out himself. but Aqua runs into him and manages to beat Xehanort. But that causes all the darkness in Xehanort to sort of implode and sucks him into the world of darkness. So Aqua jumps in to try and rescue him and ends up rescuing Terra, but ends up falling into the world of darkness herself.
Right, and that's 0.2.
Yeah, and that leads into Kingdom Hearts 0.2. As for Xehanort, he ends up losing... His fight against Aqua causes him to lose all of his own memories. And so he doesn't remember anything, and any of his plans. And he gets found by Ansem the Wise and Ansem's apprentices, and gets taken in to be looked after, and... yeah, like, that's how Xehanort ends up becoming one of Ansem's apprentices, without realising, with no memory of any of it. So,
okay.
A few other points of note is that there are two characters introduced to in Birth by Sleep called Lee and Issa, who eventually grow up to become Axel and Sykes.
Sylux.
Yeah, Sylux. Axel and Sykes, and they're just like they have a similar relationship to Sora and Riku. They're kind of rivals who want to go and see everything and go on adventures, and that becomes like a sort of recurring point for Axel later on.
Right.
And then the other point is that Sora, Riku, and Kairi all show up in Birth by Sleep.
Yeah, because they get passed on.
Yeah.
Like...
So Terra gives Riku the ability to become a Keyblade wielder because he senses his potential, and Aqua gives it to Kairi by mistake when she's trying to protect her. Whereas Ventus having his heart inside Sora is what gives Sora's. So when Ventus gets knocked out, his heart, which is running around in the darkness, gets found by Sora's heart, and Sora takes it in so he can heal himself. So Sora now has two hearts inside of him, like the Doctor from Doctor Who. He's got Sora's heart.
What do you mean two hearts?
So Sora has his own heart, but he also has Ventus's heart inside of him.
Alright. Yeah, makes sense.
So in between 0.2 Birth by Sleep is the next game, which follows Aqua.
Right.
But inside the world of darkness.
Right.
But she's ultimately... It takes place at the exact same time as Kingdom Hearts 1.
Yeah.
And the only thing you really need to know is that she walks around being a bit mopey for a while. And
actually, doesn't 0.2 take place like between like not just in Kingdom Hearts 1, but like isn't it until like
no, so
Kingdom Hearts 3?
No, 0.2 ends at the exact same time that Kingdom Hearts 1 ends. So Aqua wanders around to all of the worlds that are being eaten by darkness, like the Cinderella world and the Sleeping Beauty world and the Maleficent's world, and she wanders around being really mopey, thinking of her friends, and then she runs into Mickey Mouse, who is who has got himself stuck in the world of darkness during the events of Kingdom Hearts 1, and then she works with him, and they run into Riku. They run into Riku, who's lost in the world of darkness after...
As well.
Yeah, lost as well after the events, or during the events of Kingdom Hearts 1.
Right.
And so she helps Riku and Mickey close the door that they're closing at the end of Kingdom Hearts 1.
Mm-hmm.
And she ends up... But her helping them, she ends up getting separated from them, where she eventually runs into Ansem the Wise, just as he's about to escape from the world of darkness after Kingdom Hearts 1, but before Chain of Memories. So it's all a bit... So the main thing that she discovers in Birth by Sleep, which is kind of a narrative... not Birth by... a fragmentary passage, which is kind of just a narrative addition to explain why she's still so young, is that time moves really slowly.
Yeah.
In the world of darkness. So for her, it's only been a few months that she's been trapped in the world of darkness. But for everyone else in the world of light, it's been like a good 5-6 years.
Oh, shit.
So, which Mickey Mouse ends up telling her, because for her, it hasn't been that long since she saw him, but for him, it's been years and years. And it also explains why Riku and Sora, who were kids when Aqua met them, are now grown up, or grown up to become teenagers.
Right.
So So yeah, I'm sorry if you're lost already.
Um,
I'm NantenJex is explaining the story.
You
saw the question.
So I have a few questions that are probably gonna be. I'm saving them because we haven't gone over those games yet.
Okay.
But I know what questions I want to ask because, I think I don't know if I should wait to ask when we get to Kingdom Hearts 2.
Okay.
Or if we should wait to ask the Kingdom Hearts 1.
Well,
because one of the things that's because Birth by Sleep comes, after it comes out after Kingdom Hearts 1 technically. Yes. But in terms of story sequence,
it's the prequel.
It comes out before it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It kind of doesn't make sense how. Okay, you said that Aqua and Mickey meet Riku in the world and the World of Darkness at the end of Kingdom Hearts 1, like when they close on the door on Ansem and stuff.
Yes.
Okay. It's kind of weird that out of the entirety of Riku and Sora meeting back up in the future games, as in technically in like Kingdom Hearts 2, which is all after Birth by Sleep and Kingdom Hearts 1, that he never mentions anything about Aqua.
Well, Riku
it kind of doesn't make sense.
Riku sees her briefly, and what you find out is that Riku sees her and he kind of recognizes her, but they don't really interact. And then 0.2, the like sort of post-credit scene, cuts all the way to after Dream Drop Distance, where Riku is super angry at Mickey Mouse for leaving Aqua in the World of Darkness. Like, as far as Riku was aware, Aqua escaped when they did.
Yeah.
But Mickey reveals, actually, no, she's still trapped there, which Riku gets really annoyed about. Because he's like, why didn't we do anything to try and save her? And so that's where they've headed off after Dream Drop Distance to figure out a way of rescuing Aqua. That's what Mickey and Riku's story in Kingdom Hearts 3 is. At least whatever the beginning part of that story will be.
Alright. So second question then.
Yes.
Earlier you mentioned that that Aqua leaves Ventus in Castle Oblivion.
Huh?
And right?
What, sorry?
Aqua leaves Ventus in Castle Oblivion.
Yes.
But does Castle Oblivion it's like the way that they explain Castle Oblivion is that it kind of exists and it doesn't. It's like you get there, but you don't get there on purpose.
Yeah, it's just a play. I mean, I don't know whether they're just being really fancy when they describe that, because Castle Oblivion was just the land of departure originally, which was just a world like any other world. It was just one that Keyblade wielders happened to be on. When it became Castle Oblivion, it was purposely made really confusing and hard to navigate, and people who spend too long in there begin to lose their memory. No, actually, no, that's caused by something else, but...
That's caused by Namine.
Namine, yeah. But that ends up getting, like, just to hide Ventus into it. So there may be an extra part of that where, once it was made into Castle Oblivion, you couldn't travel there normally, and that's just part of the protection the castle has.
Right.
Like, that might be the case. But it also could just be a retcon that you can't go there normally. I mean, Sora just kind of ends up there, and we never see it, but we know the organization managed to get there, but no one else has traveled there apart from those guys. So maybe Kingdom Hearts 3 will explain that. Hopefully.
And then third question. I don't remember if it's Aqua's armor or Ventus's armor.
Okay.
But in Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, where in Hollow Bastion, there's Radiant Garden. Yeah. In Radiant Garden, when you go to like the lab where Tron is, if you go downstairs, there's like that little that jail cell area. Yes. Okay, yeah. What is the point of that place, and why is Aqua's armor there?
Yeah, so that's Aqua's armor. Because Xehanort's lost his memory, and he's part Terra. He ends up collecting that armor, and he's got conflicting feelings about it. He feels like it belongs to someone who's important to him, but he also feels like it belongs to someone who's dangerous to him, and that's like the both sides of Terra and Xehanort kind of mixing themselves over a bit, because obviously to Xehanort she's dangerous, but to Terra she's friendly, and so he's the one who keeps that there. Xehanort's the one who keeps that armor there, and there's like even like an extra scene where I think he's looking at it or something, like a special post-credit scene or something.
But what's the significance of that place? Is like there's like clearly like Organization 13
so
ties to it. So
that's
it's like
that's Ansem the Wise's lab, or part of his lab, where all of his apprentices were. And this is the part I was going to talk about now, which is set between Birth by Sleep and Kingdom Hearts 1.
right.
So Maleficent, who learned about the darkness in Birth by Sleep, starts exploring it, and at some point she runs into Terranaut.
Right.
And she gets attracted to Radiant Garden because that's where they're doing all of the darkness research, which Ansem the Wise is doing. And she sort of reignites Xehanort's memory over all of this, and they come to an agreement to help each other gain darkness. But both actually plan on betraying each other as well. So they both start working together to try and accumulate darkness, and they perform a few experiments on it where Maleficent sinks her own world into darkness and captures Aurora, because they take the 13 pieces of darkness and 7 pieces of light as a way of finding Kingdom Hearts, being like the 7 princesses of light.
Right.
And then Xehanort will get the 13 pieces of darkness. So that's initially what their sort of cooperative plan is. But then Maleficent figures that she doesn't need Xehanort for that, and decides that she's going to use all the Heartless that she's gathered to attack Radiant Garden. Which she does. She attacks Radiant Garden, and all the Final Fantasy characters who live there end up running away. And it's this attack on Radiant Garden that turns loads of people into Heartlesses. Is what sends Kairi to what's it called? Destiny Islands. It's how Kairi ends up at Destiny Islands. It's how a bunch of other people end up at Traverse Town. And it's what turns a lot of Ansem's apprentices, as well as Lee and Issa, into their nobody forms. And it's what turns Xehanort into his Heartless, which goes by the name Ansem. And
wait, say that again?
So Xehanort gets split into a nobody and a Heartless. The nobody becomes Zenmus.
Xehanort as in Terranaut, or Xehanort as
Xehanort
in
as in
Terranaut?
So Terranaut gets split into Zemnis, who is his nobody, and then his heart becomes just a heartless version of him, and the heartless version of him calls himself Ansem.
Right. So who's Ansem the Wise?
So Ansem the Wise is the old blonde man who I've put up there.
Well, yeah, I know who Ansem the Wise is, but like, if Ansem is Xehanort's Heartless, then Ansem isn't Diz's or Ansem the Wise's Heartless.
No, so Ansem the Wise never gets... Ansem the Wise manages to survive the attack, but then the other organization members, led now by the nobody of Zenmus, trap him in the world of darkness.
Ansem the Wise.
Ansem the Wise. So he traps them. They trap Ansem the Wise in the world of darkness, and then they start up Organization 13. And the Heartless version of Ansem, it gets sent off for Kingdom Hearts 1 to go and get Maleficent's 7 princesses of light, and manipulates her into, getting them all and all this, with the plan to eventually take them all once she has them.
Right.
So the Heartless version of Xehanort goes off to go and do that, and she goes off. He goes off to find Maleficent, and she's teaming up with all the other Disney villains, and she's taking more worlds into darkness, and just being a big mess of everything, while he's keeping an eye on it with the intention of taking the 7 princesses to go and meet up with the nobody version of Xehanort, who's got the 13 pieces of darkness, which he's been recruiting from all of the nobodies. But unfortunately for Xehanort, he only has 12. He's only got... the only survivors of Radiant Garden who became nobodies were him and 11 other people. Mostly the apprentices, but also characters like Marluxia, like Larcene, like Lee, like Axel, like Sykes. So they need a 13th member.
And that's the point of him trying to get Riku?
No, yeah, so what happens in Kingdom Hearts 1 is obviously Sora, Riku, and Kairi, who washed up on their shore a few years prior, end up wanting to go on adventures. Kairi washes up on shore, and that gives Sora and Riku the inspiration that actually there are worlds out there outside of their own, and so they want to go explore them and potentially reunite Kairi back on her home. But during all of this, Maleficent attacks their world, as she's doing, potentially because she knows that Kairi's there, and Kairi's a Princess of Heart. Yeah. And Ansem the Wise also shows up there, just to keep an eye on things, and potentially he learns that Riku is a Keyblade wielder. So like you said, their plan is to initially get Riku to be the 13th member. So he plans to take him over, but they all get lost in darkness. And while they're trying to get Kairi's heart ends up jumping into Sora's heart, because that's what Sora's heart can do for some reason. And so although they get Kairi's body, they don't get her heart. But that causes Kairi to obviously split into she has a regular body which doesn't disappear because she's a Princess of Heart, apparently. That's the reason why she actually has a body, even though her heart is now with Sora. And then she ends up forming her nobody, ends up becoming Naminé, who will be important around here.
So at what point does Kairi's heart go into Sora's?
Right at the beginning of Kingdom Hearts 1. When Destiny...
They never explain that.
They don't. They show.
It's not explained that well at that beginning, where to make you think that.
Yeah, that's the thing. They show it actually happening, but they never explain what it is that you've just seen. You just have Kairi runs towards Sora and then disappears through him.
Oh,
that's
supposed to be that.
That's supposed to be that. So that's Kairi's body being taken by the darkness, but her heart, when she hits Sora, remains. And so they're like, that's why they end up. That's why Maleficent and Ansem can't go ahead with their sort of plan, because they get the other 6 princesses throughout the game. They get Jasmine, they get Alice, and they already have Belle from Beauty and the Beast, but they can't hand them all. Well, Ansem can't take them all, and Maleficent can't use them to open Kingdom Hearts because she doesn't have Kairi's heart, which is inside Sora. So Maleficent comes up with the plan to use Riku as a bait to get Sora to come. And Ansem starts manipulating Riku to get more darkness. So Mickey Mouse, after sensing like Radiant Garden being destroyed, goes off to investigate and finds out about Maleficent, and then goes to leaves the note for Donald and Goofy to go and find a Keyblade wielder who can help them, as sort of foretold by Yen Sid, I guess. And so they go off to do all of that, and they find Sora, and they've got, they go on their big adventures across all the Disney worlds looking for Riku and also looking for Mickey Mouse. While Mickey Mouse is in the world of darkness, as he was in 0.2 with Aqua. And so what ends up happening is Sora was never meant to be a Keyblade wielder. It was always meant to be Riku.
Yeah.
But so when Riku ends up confronting Sora about this and steals his Keyblade, you think that's meant to be it. But because Sora has Ventus's heart, and because he's used the Keyblade so much, he just naturally develops his own Keyblade.
Okay.
So he gains his own Keyblade from this, and he goes off to take down Riku. And because of this, Ansem now gets more interested in Sora than he is with Riku, but he decides to take over Riku's body anyway because there's more darkness in it.
Right.
So
that's where you see the whole Riku outfit.
Yeah.
The
So
dark Riku outfit.
the dark Riku outfit, which I actually do have here. So they end up fighting, obviously, and Sora manages to break Ansem away from Riku. And so Ansem decides he'd rather have Sora instead. And then Sora unlocks his own heart so that Kairi's heart can leave. But of course, doing this, he's also got Ventus's heart inside of him, as well as his own heart. So Sora gets turned into a Heartless, but not his full heart. So usually his whole heart would have gone, and his body would have just become a shadow, a Heartless like it did. But because he had 3 hearts inside of him, Kyrie's heart just goes back to her body, and she wakes up.
And then Roxas gets made.
Yeah, Ventus's heart, and half of Ventus's heart and half of Sora's heart end up going off to form Roxas.
Which is Sora's nobody.
But it's technically half Sora and half Ventus. And so because Sora still has half of his heart, Kyrie, who's a princess of heart, can give him his body back, which is what she does, and so he stops being a Heartless. And that's also how Sora and Roxas can exist at the same time, because technically that's not possible. And it's also why Sora has a Heartless transformation in Kingdom Hearts 2, because he's technically teetering on this point where he himself is a Heartless, because he doesn't have his nobody. But
are you talking about Antiform?
Yeah, Antiform, yeah. Because that's based on the fact that he can only become Antiform because he became a Heartless in Kingdom Hearts 1. And so because he still has some of his heart, and it's being filled up by Ventus's other half of his heart, he can still have a physical form despite not having a nobody. So Sora at this point is just a walking heart. And so he goes off, they rescue Riku. Riku gets lost to the world of darkness after he gets defeated by Ansem, but he's rescued by Mickey Mouse. And they manage to defeat Ansem, and Ansem attempts to get to the world of darkness, which he views... Ansem the Heartless, not Ansem the Wise. Okay. So his belief seems to be that, I don't know if this has been slightly retconned or not, that Kingdom Hearts is the world of darkness, or he thinks he's found the door to Kingdom Hearts, because Maleficent's plan is just to get a whole bunch of darkness and slap it with the 7 Princesses of Light, and hopefully that will make Kingdom Hearts.
Right.
And Ansem attempts that, but all that ends up happening is, because he doesn't have the Princesses of Heart anymore, because Sora rescued them all, he just opens a door to the world of darkness, and ends up being killed by a bunch of light that he wasn't expecting. And so Ansem's Heartless version dies. And Sora and Riku and King Mickey end up trapping themselves because you have to close the door of darkness both ways, on both sides.
They're on the other side.
Yeah. So Riku and King Mickey end up trapped in the world of darkness. Sora, Donald, and Goofy end up... Kairi ends up being sent back to Destiny Island, and Sora, Donald, and Goofy head off to rescue Mickey and King Riku.
And which then they head to Castle Oblivion.
Yeah, and that leads to Chain of Memories. But before Chain of Memories, we've got, when I get down to it, Kingdom Hearts 358 over a half days. Which,
aren't those happening at the exact same time?
Kingdom Hearts 358 and a half days starts before Chain of Memories. It starts during the events of Kingdom Hearts, because it starts at the exact moment that Sora unlocks his heart and Roxas gets made.
Right.
And then it continues past Chain of Memories and on to up to the start of Kingdom Hearts 2.
Okay.
So I'll just go through both of them sort of at the same time. So Roxas, who's nobody now, gets found by Organization 13, and he has a Keyblade, which makes everyone feel a lot better, because it means they don't need Riku anymore, and they don't need Sora because they have Roxas. But Roxas is pretty weak because he was just formed, and they're also... Zenmus is slightly worried that Roxas is going to sort of... If he starts remembering about Sora, if he meets Sora and all this, then he might not be willing to work with them anymore.
Right.
So he gets...
Let's make Geo.
Yeah, so he gets Axel to look after them first. Where's Axel? So he gets Axel to start keeping an eye on Roxas, and he also gets Sykes to sort of lead Roxas, give him missions, keep him busy, etc. While Zenmus goes off and does whatever. And while they're doing this, Zenmus is also looking for... Zenmus is also trying to find Ventus. And he manages to track Ventus's body down to Castle Oblivion. So he sends a bunch of his members, led by Marluxia, to Castle Oblivion to see what they can find. And at the same time, there's scientist guy whose name I don't remember off the top of my head. I didn't bother making a thing of him, but he has the grey hair.
Vexen?
Yeah, I think it's Vexen.
No, Vexen has blonde hair.
Okay.
Zeshion, something like that.
Yeah, him. So he's like their scientist. So while that's going on, you're right. He asked if Zenmus asked him to try and figure out a way of making copies of people, so they can have a backup, just in case Roxas doesn't want to. Just in case Roxas doesn't want to cooperate. So they experiment with this at Castle Oblivion, and of course, at Castle Oblivion is where Sora, Riku, Donald, Goofy. I won't bother adding them all, but I'll throw Riku and Sora on there at least. So I'll move my Luxia over here as well, because this is where he's important. So this is where these guys all end up. And so they decide to take they found Namine as well, like when she got created, and for some reason she has these memory altering powers that haven't really been explained why she has them.
I think the explanation was that what she draws in the book affects a character's, or affects that character's
that's how it works, but they don't explain why that works. I guess that's just her special power, I suppose.
Yeah.
So they start experimenting. So Axel goes off to do Chain of Memories as well, to keep an eye.
He's in both.
Yeah, so he's sent by Sykes to keep an eye on Marluxia and his lot, because they don't trust Marluxia. Marluxia and Larxene plan on betraying the organization, and trying to get rid of Zenmus. And the scientist guy whose name you just said, but I keep forgetting, he's sent there to figure out a way of making clones, basically. And so they experiment by making a fake version of Riku. Yeah,
Riku Replica. By Vexen.
Yeah.
That they treat Riku Replica as more of a Vexen thing. Although Zeshin is there, like, I think he's there very minimally. I don't remember if you fight him. You probably do.
You fight whoever the scientist guy is fought and defeated by Riku at the end of Riku's campaign.
So that's probably Zeshin. I don't remember specifically, because I think they both fight him.
They might do.
Because I know that Sora fights the Riku Replica.
Yes.
But Riku also fights the Riku Replica.
Yeah, he does.
So it's like
that's because the Riku Replica is, and this is where, I mean, Kingdom Hearts is already complicated, and this is where it starts getting even more so. So the Riku Replica is a separate character who is an important character, who will come back again.
Yeah, as we've seen in Kingdom Hearts 3 trailer.
Yeah, and
comes back.
Like a big reason of that, and there's another character of a similar ilk that I'll bring up in a minute. That but Riku Replica is the fake version of Riku made from Sora's memories of Riku.
Yeah.
And they also after Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, where Marxine gets defeated and they rescue Namine, Namine starts putting Sora's memories back together along with Dis, who is Ansem the Wise. So Ansem the Wise managed to find a way of escaping the world of darkness and disguised himself
as
Diz. And I can't remember what the exact explanation was for how he ends up tricking the organization into working with them. But he only does it so he can keep an eye on Namine.
Right. Okay, so I don't remember specifically about Diz, because when he reveals his face, he's Ansem, as in like Heartless Ansem. He looks like Heartless Ansem, right?
No, I don't think so. He doesn't reveal his face till Kingdom Hearts 2. The one who looks like so the one who looks like Heartless Ansem in Kingdom Hearts 2 is Riku. So
Diz is Riku then?
No, so Diz reveals to Riku that he still has, his heart is still filled with darkness.
Right.
Because of Ansem the Wise. And so
not
because of Ansem the Wise, because of Ansem the Heartless.
Let's not get to that yet, because there's other things that go into that. That's part of 358 days. And let's just keep going first with stuff, and then because we'll get to it later, and then I guess it'll make more sense.
Yeah, let's go back to 358 over 2 days. Because so after the events of Chain of Memories, and Sora gets put in this like pod to give his memories back.
2 years.
Yeah, all of the organization managed to get a lot of Sora's memories during the events of Chain of Memories, and just like how they make a fake Riku, they also make Shion, who is essentially a fake Sora, but her appearance depends on the her appearance depends on who the person is looking at them. So when Roxas looks at her, because of Sora's memories of Kairi, that's why Shion ends up looking like Kairi does.
Yeah, but at the end of 358, you see that when she reveals herself, she looks like Sora.
Yes, because she's mostly Sora's memory, so she should look like Sora technically. But Shion, Shion, Roxas, and Axelor become really good friends, and then Shion ends up discovering the truth when out on a mission from Dis, and she meets Namine and Dis, and they end up sort of telling her why she was made and all this, and they also reveal to her that as she gets stronger, Roxas gets weaker. Because as far as Xemnas, so as far as Xemnas is concerned, he only needs one Keyblade wielder, and that's because after they lost the 7 Princesses of Light, Xemnas has to come up with a new plan, and his new plan is to get as many Heartlesses as possible, and they'll make their own version of Kingdom Hearts, basically,
which is what happens in Kingdom Hearts 2.
Yes. But in order to do that, they need a Keyblade wielder, because only a Keyblade wielder can collect darkness. If anyone else kills a Heartless, it will just go off and reform and come back.
Yeah, it turns. They do the good job of showing that in 358 over 2 days. Where if you're playing as Riku, not Riku, if you're playing as Roxas or Shion, when you kill a Heartless, it's pink. But any other character, when they kill a Heartless, it turns gray.
Yeah. So they need one of the Keyblade wielders, and they feel like having Shion, who is an original creation who's been developed specifically for the organization, will be more loyal than the nobody of Sora, who at any day now could remember everything and suddenly leave. Yeah,
which he does.
Yeah. So they end up they end up, in order to make Shion like stronger, they need to basically have Roxas fuse with her. But they do it slowly so that neither of them notice. But when Shion finds out from Dis and Namine, she doesn't want her friend to die, so she tries to take down the organization herself and fails. She's stopped by Axel. And instead, she comes up with she realizes that if Roxas can kill her instead, then he'll get all of her energy. He'll become, part with her. So that's what she does in the end. She decides that she'd rather die herself and have Roxas get stronger than kill Roxas and have herself become stronger. And she tricks Roxas into doing that because she knows Roxas wouldn't do it any other way. So when
basically forces him to fight.
Yeah. So when Roxas ends up defeating Shion, and he gets all of Sora's memories and gets all of Shion's memories, except that he then also forgets who Shion is, because it's all memory bullshit.
Because Shion technically isn't supposed to exist.
Yes.
So although the idea of Shion is still there, which I think is the whole reason why he's able to wield 2 Keyblades at this point, is the fact of Shion doesn't exist technically, even though she was. So she's basically completely eradicated from his memories.
Yeah,
but it's still very obvious that she exists because of they show her. I'm pretty sure that they show her in Dream Drop Distance as well.
She exists within Roxas's memories somewhere, but he can't fully recall who she is, and neither can anyone else. But she does exist inside Roxas's memories, and so Roxas, who's super pissed off, ends up going to try and take down the organization himself.
Yeah,
and he does fight Sykes and all this, and he takes them out, and Axel tries to stop him, but Axel but he won't listen to Axel, which upsets him. But so Roxas is unique because he has 2 Keyblades.
Wait, I think you got that mixed the other way around.
What?
Because Sykes tries to stop him first, and then we have that whole cutscene of as he's leaving the world that never was.
Yeah.
It's Axel who's like, what was it?
Axel's the one.
Roxas is like, no one will miss me, and it's like Axel's like, I would, but then he leaves, and then he goes to Twilight Town on top of the clock tower, and then that's where Xion's boss happened.
All right.
And then after that, he goes back to the world that never was and ends up fighting Riku.
Yeah, no, okay. I knew he ends up fighting Riku at the end. It's just the order of things. But also, one thing to note is that Roxas has 2 Keyblades because he's made up of Ventus and Sora. Because Shion shouldn't exist. So Shion, even though it's sort of portrayed that he's got Shion's Keyblade, it doesn't technically make sense because Shion's Keyblade, along with herself, should never really exist. It's just Sora's still. So
yeah, okay, that makes sense.
they ended up saying later on that he has 2 Keyblades because he's made up of half of Ventus and half of Sora. So he's technically using copies of Sora and Ventus's Keyblades.
Okay.
Even though Ventus's Keyblade just looks like the regular Keyblade in that, and whatever, I suppose. It's missing the right keychain. So, yeah, so Ventus ends up... Roxas ends up fighting Riku at the end, and Riku is struggling to beat Roxas because he's super OP at this point, and he's really powerful. And so Riku ends up letting the darkness take over himself in order to give him a power boost. But in doing so, because Riku's darkness was raised by Ansem the Heartless.
Yeah, he ends up becoming Ansem.
He ends up looking like Ansem. So he ends up taking Ansem's form, like but he's still got Riku's control and Riku's mind. It's kind of a similar situation to what happens with Xehanort and Terra, with the one difference being that Ansem the Heartless is obviously a Heartless. And so he's just pure darkness. There is no body, there's no physical version of him. So it's still Riku's body, but with a weird Ansem overlook, basically.
Yeah.
So Riku ends up looking like Ansem, the Heartless, and he manages to defeat Roxas, and then they put Roxas inside of a simulation that Dees watches over in Twilight Town, which is where Kingdom Hearts 2 begins.
Yeah. Okay, wait. So, before we get into Kingdom Hearts 2, so that fight between Roxas and Riku, that's the deep dive secret ending of Kingdom Hearts 1.
Yes.
But the ending, the reverse rebirth ending of Chain of Memories, that's happening before. That happens, like where he says, "I picked the road to dawn." That's before that fight, right?
Wait, you're gonna have to remind me what happens in that.
So, and at the end of Reverse Rebirth, Mickey and Riku, they leave Castle Oblivion, and then they're in like that crossway where he's like, where Diz appears, and it's like, okay, you can pick either the road to light or the road to darkness, and Riku says, neither. I'm gonna pick the road to dawn.
Oh, okay.
And then, so I'm assuming that is before the. Yeah.
Yes,
that's before the deep dive battle.
Yes, that's right at the end of Chain of Memories, and there's still like a good nearly a year from that point onwards, because it takes like
3582. Because then after the Riku battle, after the Roxas and Riku battle, you still have the simulation of Roxas's life.
And the simulation of Roxas's life only takes a few days.
Yeah, 7 days.
In real time, 7 days. Yeah, but like Sora's in that pod for like a good year. From the end of Chain of Memories to Kingdom Hearts 2. So Kingdom Hearts 305, 8, whatever, takes over the course of an entire year. And Riku and King Mickey and all this are working to find the organization, find Roxas, find Shion and all this over the course of a year.
Right.
So...
Oh!
Which is why they're also older.
358 days. Then the 7 days of Roxas's life, 358 days plus 7 is 365. Okay, that's so smart.
Yeah.
Okay, I never realized that until now.
And that's what you get. That's why it's named that way, and it's ridiculous. So then you get Kingdom Hearts 2, which starts with Roxas, in his simulation world. Axel shows up to try and rescue him and bring him back to the organization, but
it
doesn't work out. And so when Roxas realizes what he is, he willingly agrees after he meets Namine
to go back into Sora.
Yeah, so after he meets Namine, he willingly agrees to go back into Sora. Where's my Sora there? And then Sora, Donald, and Goofy all decide to go off and back to trying to find King... No, actually, they find King Mickey almost straight away.
And then he leaves again.
And then he leaves again. He tells them about... He tells them to go to Radiant Garden and tells them that there's shit going down.
I told them to go to Yen Sid.
Oh, yeah, sorry, you're right. He tells them to go to Yen Sid first, and Yen Sid explains everything that's happened over a year and gives Sora a new set of clothes.
Yeah.
And then they head to Hollow Bastion to meet all the other Final Fantasy characters. And that's also when they meet the organization for the first time.
Yeah.
Well, not the first time because they met him in Chain of Memories, but this is where they meet him again. This is where they get reintroduced.
Basically, it's where they actually... It's kind of like where... Well, kind of meets him because he doesn't remember who they are. Right?
Yeah.
Sora doesn't remember who they are.
Yeah, Sora doesn't remember who they are because he had his memories of Chain of Memories wiped.
Completely wiped.
But he meets them again now, and then they spend the game traveling from world to world, trying to stop the organization from messing with everyone and collecting darkness for their Kingdom Hearts, which they can't really do anymore because they don't have a Keyblade wielder.
Right.
So they're trying to...
they're just using Sora, kind of.
Yeah, so they kind of just... Yeah, they're luring Sora around and trying to capture all of the Heartless that Sora kills on his adventure. They're then capturing in this big machine. Right. So they're causing issues for Sora to go and fix so that they can do all of this. And while this is all happening, Maleficent and Pete are sort of Maleficent comes back to life through the power of darkness and then is trying to do her plan again from Kingdom Hearts 1 and is also just being a big pain in everybody's side. And so while all of that's going on, Axel decides that if he kidnaps Kairi, he could potentially lure Sora to the world that never was, and then he can have another attempt at waking Roxas up. And it works that he lures Sora over there, but he fails to get Roxas up, and then he just decides to give up on that, on getting Roxas, and instead he'll do what Roxas set out to do and protect Sora, basically.
Yeah.
So Axel betrays the organization in an attempt to protect Sora and gets himself killed for it.
Yeah, which is in a big split in between.
Yeah.
Right before they enter.
Yeah, right before they enter, and so Axel ends up dying, and Riku ends up showing up to because Sora's looking for Riku. He doesn't know where Riku is yet, and Riku's been sort of wandering around trying to figure out what the organization is doing next, trying to figure out a way of stopping him. So they all reunite at the world that never was.
Wait, before that, the Roxas and Sora fight.
Yeah. So Roxas and Sora end up fighting inside of Sora's own subconscious, where Sora ends up winning, and Roxas ends up explaining who he is to Sora and all this, and decide to permanently refuse.
Which is, I think after that point, which is why you're able to unlock final form.
Yes.
Because, well, Master Form could also use 2 Keyblades, or use 3 or something like that.
Yeah, so when he fuses with Roxas, Sora gets the ability to use 2 Keyblades, which is technically him being able to use Ventus's Keyblade. Because it just basically gives him power to Ventus's heart. So they all meet up in the world that never was. Ansem the Wise reveals himself. Well, he reveals himself before that, right around the Tron area. And
does he?
Pretty sure he reveals himself after Tron. Or at least that's when his picture is first seen, and it's not too long after that that Deese reveals himself as Ansem, because he then gives a big monologue to them in his office.
Okay.
So, Ansem the Wise ends up going there, and Ansem the Wise destroys the machine that they were using to create a fake Kingdom Hearts.
Right.
And the burst of light that comes from that ends up also curing Riku of his Ansem the Heartless syndrome.
But it kills Ansem the Wise.
It sends Ansem the Wise back to the Dark World. The world of darkness.
That's what it does?
Yeah, so he's still alive, he's just in the world of darkness again. So, after escaping the first time, he's now back there. So, he's still alive, he's just in the world of darkness.
Okay.
But, Riku ends up being cured of his stuff, and they all chase down Zenmus up to the top of the world that never was, and they have a big fight with him, and they think they've defeated him. And then
you don't.
Roxas permanently fuses with Sora, and Nalmane permanently fuses with Kairi.
Yeah.
And then as everybody's leaving, what's his name? Zenmus reappears again, and Riku and Sora end up teaming up to take him down for good this time. So they manage to take him down, but the not very stable fake Kingdom Hearts that Zenmus is trying to make ends up imploding, and Sora and Riku get sent to the World of Darkness as well. So
yeah,
Sora and Riku are trapped in the World of Darkness now,
and then they get the bottle.
But they get the bottle from King Mickey, and King Mickey and.
Well, I thought that was Kyrie's message. It was Kyrie's message.
Oh yeah, no, King Mickey's is the one that comes after that, isn't it?
Yeah, and like right before, right before the credits or after the credits or something like that.
So Kyrie's message in the bottle gets to them, and they use that to get out of the World of Darkness, and they reunite with Donald, Goofy, Kyrie, and Mickey on Destiny Islands, and that's where Kingdom Hearts 2 ends. Everyone thinks that everything is okay and everything's been dealt with, and then we get the downtime that is Recoded.
Yeah. Okay. I still don't get Recoded.
Okay. So I'll explain Recoded. So what happened was during that year that Sora, Donald, Goofy, and technically Jiminy Cricket are all asleep. They're using Jiminy Cricket's journal to sort of recreate Sora's memories, and so they end up erasing Jiminy Cricket's journal of the first game, and Naminé, with the help of Dees, leaves a message in there telling them to look into this data that they've somehow inserted into this book. And at the same time, Ansem the Wise chooses to hide some data inside of Sora himself. So Ansem the Wise takes all of his research, and he teams up with Naminé to hide his research within Sora.
The Ansem reports?
Yeah, so all the Ansem reports, all the data he's got on Heartless and all that, he hides within Sora's own mind and body, and to keep it safe. Because Ansem the Wise has more reports than even his apprentices knew about, and he knows more about how Heartless's work than anyone else. And he wants to keep this information away, so he hides it within Sora, and he leaves clues to it within Jiminy Cricket's diary. So when Mickey finds Jiminy Cricket's diary, has this weird stuff in it, they end up turning the book into a data program, because that's how that works.
Yeah.
And they, in order to get inside the data program, they end up creating a data version of Sora.
Yeah.
To explore inside Sora's memories, pretty much. Which is what happens. So he goes through all of Sora's memories once again, and ends up coming across a data version of Naminé that Naminé created to look after all of the data that was in there. Then look after all the Ansem reports. And the main thing that Sora and Mickey get out of this is that when a Heartless dies and a Nobody dies, they refuse, and the original person is brought back to life. So they realize that because Ansem the Heartless got killed, and because Xemnas got killed, they're going to refuse, and Xehanort himself is going to come back. So they realize that...
Wait, you mean like Old Man Xehanort?
Yeah, so Old Man Xehanort is the one that comes back, and not Terra Xehanort. And it hasn't been explained, and I don't know if they will explain it, but hopefully they do, why it was that way. Why it's Old Man Xehanort that came back.
Wait, so does Terranort still exist?
As far as we're aware, he doesn't, but surely the body must exist somewhere, because Terra's soul is still in the lingering spirit, and presumably Terra's body must exist somewhere. So unless this is something that Kingdom Hearts 3 will probably need to explain.
Wait, hold on, wait. So you said that because hold on. So you said that because
So I guess the other thing, because I don't know where Phantom just disappeared to, so I'll just keep going until he's back. I think he's talking to someone.
Hold on.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
I still have my question though.
Okay. I'll wait till you come back.
Okay.
What's the chat saying? because I haven't really been able to keep it a mind on the chat while all this nonsense is going on. How many people are actually watching to me go over this? Okay. So, yeah, Namine is a special nobody. Namine does happen when Sora stabs himself. Now, the thing with the story of Kingdom Hearts 1 is it's clear that the first one is like meant to be its own standalone thing and didn't have any thoughts beyond that. And then Chain of Memories was a setup for Kingdom Hearts 2. Like, they clearly thought of the story for Kingdom Hearts 2 before Chain of Memories and just kind of did that to set it up. And that just those three were meant to be the end of it. Kingdom Hearts, Chain of Memories, Kingdom Hearts 2, and that was the whole story. But when they decided to expand the universe, 358 over half days is fine because it's kind of an intermediate game. But they decided they wanted to make it bigger, a bigger thing than it was, and so did Birth by Sleep to make everything that extra confusing.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay.
So my question was that you said that when a Heartless and the Nobody is killed, it reforms the original person.
Yes.
And Terranort, Terranort's Heartless is Ansem, right?
Yes.
But Terranort's Nobody is Xemnas.
Yes.
So because in Kingdom Hearts 2, Xemnas was killed, and in Kingdom Hearts 1, Ansem was killed, it makes back Xehanort.
Yeah, well, so that's the part that Kingdom Hearts 3 may need to explain, because there's one explanation for this, which I'll go into in Dream Drop Distance. But,
right.
Xehanort, because it technically should make Terranort again, but Xehanort is the one that shows up, and we haven't seen Terranort at all.
Well,
since then. And there may be an explanation for this in Dream Drop Distance, but the way it's set up is that old man Xehanort is the one who has come back, not the others, not Terranort.
Maybe it's because, well, I think the question is just where is Terra's body then?
Yeah,
because I think it kind of makes sense that, okay, well, if both of them are dead, if both Ansem and Xemnas are dead, then Xehanort comes back. Okay, that makes sense. But then where's Terra's body? I think that's just a question that needs to be answered.
That's the question that needs to be answered, and it could have either it's floating around somewhere, or it's gone back to Linger in Soul, and so actually Terra is also just walking around somewhere now, fully formed again.
In the Kingdom Hearts 3 opening, don't they show Terra showing up or something like that?
Well, in Kingdom Hearts 3 opening, all of them are there. Terra, Aqua, Ventus. It shows Shion as well. It shows all the protagonists, pretty much.
No, but I mean, like, at the end where they're fighting. I don't think it shows Shion, but I think it shows Terra.
I'm not 100% sure. I've been trying to avoid stuff from 3, so... But
because I know that they had I'm talking about the trailer, not like the official full opening that's leaked.
I'm not sure.
Let me see.
But yeah, just to, so there's one other point in Recoded, which go back to explaining something that I went over about an hour ago, which shows how long this has gone on for. Maleficent shows up in Recoded, along with Pete, because they want to get information that Ansem also hid. Now, they don't explain how Maleficent knows about this, but she does. She found out somehow that there was data inside of the book, and the data that she's looking for, which she does get, is the ability to travel through time using darkness, which is how she ends up back in Union Cross looking for the player character. Because Maleficent now has her own plan, which we're not 100% sure on. But she uses darkness to travel through time to try and get back to when Keyblades were more common in an attempt to try and get the player character. Because the player character is still significant in all of this.
Oh my gosh.
And we don't know why he's significant in all of this. But we know that something's got to appear because his Dream Eater, Chirithy, is going to be in Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah.
So it's going to have to come connected to this, and it'll all connect to something Nomura said, which I was going to say at the end of all of this. But That's what Maleficent's looking for in Recoded. Data from there so that she can travel through time, which she gets, and then she does travel through time. But then we find out in Dream Drop Distance that Xehanort did actually know that with darkness you can travel through time. And he's been playing the really, really long game, it turns out.
Yeah, in Dream Drop Distance, where
yeah,
Xehanort goes back in time to get Xemnas.
Yeah, so
and young Xehanort.
Yeah, so we find out that before the events of Kingdom Hearts 1, when Ansem this Heartless was sent to go and sort of manipulate Maleficent, he also used the power of darkness to travel back in time to when Xehanort was young and implant all of those original ideas Xehanort had about darkness within his mind, and set him on the path that he was going on. And as part of this setup, Xehanort basically decides that the only person you can trust is yourself. And so he's going to remake the 13 Pieces of Darkness with just himself. Yeah. And he's been planning this since before Kingdom Hearts 1 as like a second backup plan in case everything goes wrong. So Ansem the Heartless goes back to get young Xehanort, and then young Xehanort goes around through time travel to collect Xemnas as well. And the way time travel apparently works in Kingdom Hearts is that when you time travel from one spot to another, if you go back to that spot you originally came from, you will lose any memories you had of time traveling. But the effects you had when time traveling will still be in play. Which is a kind of Nomura's way of explaining why Xemnas and why Ansem don't remember time traveling. And why Xehanort doesn't remember himself from the future coming back to time travel with himself.
What?
Because memories don't travel through time, I guess. So
wait. So Xehanort going back in time.
Yeah. So
he doesn't remember going back in time?
He doesn't remember time traveling. The only Xehanort that does know of all the time traveling stuff is the old man Xehanort. Because old man Xehanort. He went back in time. Old man Xehanort knows it because he's been sending other people back in time instead of himself, and so remembers sending people to different points in time or instructing them to. He technically has no idea what's happened at each point in time, but considering all three of his versions show up in the present day. So basically it is that old man Xehanort, he's existing in the normal time. He hasn't done any time traveling, and his three previous versions are all there currently with him. So he knows them all being there, but when those three versions will go back in time, they'll all forget what's happened.
Yeah.
But old man Xehanort is still there, so he knows what's happening. He hasn't done any time traveling. So these three versions of Xehanort start traveling through time, and they start basically figuring out, like, okay, so I got as many... Maybe Terranort is one of them as well. We don't actually know. But they're trying to find versions of... Put basically pieces of themselves, like Horcruxes, into their most loyal followers. Which includes, like, Xigbar, and who's become part Xehanort.
Xehanort, yeah.
And so while this is going on, and the guys from Recoded figure it out that Xehanort would be coming back, Yen Sid decided that Sora and Riku needed to become Keyblade Masters. And so he does a really rush exam on them, which is the Dream exam, where they're going to enter Dream Worlds and solve the problems of the Dream Worlds in order to become masters. But Xehanort figures this, knows this is going to happen, and intervenes, and tries to use this to lure Sora's mind away, because he wants Sora to be one of the Xehanorts.
Right, which is the whole point of the X on Sora's outfit, which is explained like in the last minute.
Yeah, so well, yes, and so he wants Sora to be a Xehanort, and there is no particular reason for this other than the fact that Xehanort is super impressed with everything Sora has done between Kingdom Hearts 1 to Dream Drop Distance, that he has this like appreciation for Sora, this respect for Sora, and so he really wants Sora to be his 13th member, because he's gone and got the other 12 through various means of time travel and other bullshit. So Sora is going to be the 13th member, but Riku's own mind, who sort of realizes there's trouble when they show up, he does a second deep dive into dreams. He does an Inception and goes into Sora's dreams.
Yeah.
And becomes a Dream Eater. And so Riku, as a Dream Eater, starts protecting Sora from the inside, while Sora is just doing his exam, being lured around by all the various versions of Xehanort.
Yeah.
And Sora ends up because he's exploring his own mind, essentially, he ends up running into memories of Shion that Roxas had, because they're obviously within Sora now. And he runs into memories of Aqua and Terra because he's got Ventus's memories inside of him as well. And so that's how Sora sort of sees everything, because he's got everyone's own mind within his own mind. That he's the only one who remembers any of these people. And while he ends up losing to the Xehanorts and nearly gets taken over, Riku comes in to help and defeats young Xehanort. And while all of this is going on, Axel, who, because obviously Xehanort came back to life, but that means all the other organization members came back to life. So Axel wakes up back in Radiant Garden with a bunch of other ex-organization members and sets off to go and find Sykes, who isn't there. And Sykes being his BFF, or one of his BFFs, I suppose. So he goes there and he heads to find Yensid and Mickey and Kairi and all of them, who are sort of just waiting around for Sora and Riku to finish. And he agrees to help them because Axel still wants to do what he set out to do and protect Sora like Roxas wanted. And so he ends up Yensid ends up sending him into the dream world as well, in an attempt to rescue Sora along with Riku once Yensid realizes that Sora's in trouble. Which Axel does, and Axel shows up and he fights off Sykes, who he finds out is there, and they rescue Sora and they all escape. And so at the end of Dream Drop Distance, Riku becomes a Keyblade Master because he managed to save the day, whereas Sora fails, and in fact Xehanort's influence over Sora and everything he was doing to him when he was trying to turn him actually caused Sora to lose all of his abilities. So Sora has lost a lot of strength and a lot of power. He can't do magic anymore. He's basically lost everything. And so Axel ends up becoming... It turns out Axel can become a Keyblade wielder as well, which isn't fully explained yet. But he becomes a Keyblade wielder, and so him and Kairi are just going to be trained by Yensid.
Right.
Because Yensid realizes that if they want to defeat... So the stream just went down there a bit, I just noticed. So, yes, it's just jumping in and out, but it's coming back. Yeah, it's coming back on mine, so it should hopefully be back in a sec. So Yensid's plan now is that Xehanort's setting up 13 pieces of darkness, 13 versions of himself, and to combat this, and Xehanort's going to go after the 7 princesses of light, so that he can do that. So Yensid wants to set up 7 warriors of light to protect the princesses of light, to stop Xehanort from winning. And so at the moment, the plan is for that to be Riku is definitely one, King Mickey is definitely one, Axel and Kairi are being trained up to be one each, Sora is going to be one, and they just need 2 more. And so Riku and Kairi decide... No, Riku and King Mickey decide that Aqua should be one.
Yeah.
And that's why they go off to go and find that's why they go off to go and find Aqua in the World of Darkness. And then they also sort of realize that Sora is the key to waking up Ventus, who Mickey knows about and Yen Sid know about. And so Sora will go off to try and find Ventus. But first, Sora needs to get his strength back. So so Sora, Donald, and Goofy decide to go and visit Hercules because he's a true hero, and he should be able to help Sora get strong again.
Sense.
So they go off to go and find Hercules, while Kairi and Axel stay with Yen Sid and train together to get stronger themselves.
Okay.
And so that's that's where we're up to now.
It kind of feels implied that Terra's kind of just dead.
Yeah, well, they don't know anything
outside of his soul being in lingering will. It sounds like he's just dead.
Yeah, well, that's why I think Terra coming back is going to be a big sort of reveal, because obviously, I mean, this is from the trailers, so I don't know. To be fair, I don't want to go into it, but just in case someone has been avoiding the trailers, but a certain character is obviously on the bad guy's side, and I think Terra is then going to be sort of the replacement for that on the good guy's side, because they all need to be Keyblade wielders as well, which is why Donald and Goofy don't count as as protectors of the light. And so that's kind of where everything is at right now. Sora's gone off to train and potentially find Ventus. Riku and Mickey have gone off to find Aqua. Axel and Kairi are training. Xehanort has gone around getting other characters to become Xehanorts, and we know that this includes ex-organization members like Xigbar, like Sykes, like Marluxia. Maleficent's trying to get the original player character from the first game for some reason, and we don't know why that is. But that original player character, because we still don't know what happened between Union Cross and Birth by Sleep, how Ventus lost his memory, how Lauriam became Marluxia, and what happened to all of the other characters there. Right. So that's presumably, hopefully, going to be explained somewhat in Kingdom Hearts 3. But,
well, I mean, didn't you say that, like, the nobody forms when the person, right?
So nobody forms when a person gets their heart unlocked and turns into a Heartless. But we don't know if that happened to Lauriam ages ago, or if that happened to Lauriam when Radiant Garden got attacked.
Well, I mean, could probably assume that. Because Issa and Lee turned into bodies, right?
Yes.
But we have no idea who the Heartless are.
Who? What? Sorry.
Axel and Syax. They're from Lee and E.
Yes,
right?
They are. Yeah.
They're nobodies.
Yes.
So then where they're Heartless?
I mean, it's sort of just implied that their Heartless is just one of the many Heartless
shadows.
Yeah, one of the many shadows, or potentially even a boss that Sora killed at some point.
And you said before, that. I think it was not Marluxia. That Maleficent released onto Radiant Garden.
Yes.
So probably what caused Marluxia to end up kicking the bucket and becoming.
Yeah, what caused Lauriam to become Marluxia and whatever his Heartless is. Yeah, I mean it could potentially have happened there unless something happened in between Union Cross and Birth by Sleep that caused that to happen, but we don't know. That hasn't been explained yet. So like the other things that have kind of need explaining is we still don't know what's in that box that the Master of Master gave to his apprentice Luxu, which presumably got kept alongside the Keyblade, which Xehanort stole, but Xehanort clearly didn't steal the box, and they seem to be looking for it for some reason. But we don't know what's in that. We don't know what's in that box, and we still don't know where the Master of Masters went either, unless he's in the box.
Do you think the book be in the box?
Do I think what is in the box?
The book.
Book.
the Book of Prophecies?
I don't think so, because all of his apprentices had a copy of the Book of Prophecies. So they had their own books of prophecies each.
Right.
But they had the same prophecy. They just the same book, just 5 times or 6 times.
Then, yeah, I don't know what could be in there. Also, another thing. How do I phrase this? Okay, so we already know that. Well, kinda. We know that in Dream Drop Distance, Roxas, when Sora meets Roxas at the Sora story and whatever, I'm gonna have a lot of questions because that happened and that I understand. So in Distance, when Sora meets with, I think after he meets Amine and then to Xion, that when Sora Roxas holds his hand and all of Roxas's memories go to Sora.
Yes.
So Sora is aware of Roxas's life, right?
Roxas's life is inside of Sora, and if Sora looked through his memories, he could potentially find it. But Sora doesn't fully realize this, and so hasn't.
Right, so, and the reason Sora and Roxas are 2 different memories is because they have 2 different kinds of hearts. Because it's half the other person.
Yes, and so
Lee. So Axel is still called Lee because he doesn't have a separate heart. Lee turns into Axel.
Yeah, Lee just turns into Axel, and then Lee's body disappears, and his Heartless becomes one of the many Heartless that is killed.
Right. So I don't know if this will also make sense now. So, and when Braig is Zay.
What? Sorry, you seem to have cut out. Phantom seems to have cut out on us. Oh no. So, yeah, I can't hear Phantom anymore. It seems to be something on his end rather than my end. Hello? You back? You back? No, I can't hear you. Oh, now you suddenly.
Okay.
Yeah, now I can hear you.
I'm gonna restart this.
Yeah. Okay. You jump out and jump back in again because you've cut out again. So it's like all sorts of bad internet problems with streams, isn't it? Always the case. So a big thing, I suppose, in Kingdom Hearts is a lot of things that need explaining, obviously. But something Nomura said a while ago, when he was first talking about Kingdom Hearts 3, is how Sora, by the end of Kingdom Hearts 3, will have saved everybody. And when he says everybody, he quite literally means everybody. So he'll have saved Ventus, Terra, and Aqua. He will have saved Roxas and Xion and Namine. He will save fake Riku, or Riku Replica, and he'll also save Data Sora from Recoded, and Data Namine from Recoded. And then obviously Mickey, Donald, Goofy, Kairi, Riku, Axel, presumably Sykes as well, possibly Marluxia as well. Like, he's going to try. By the end of Kingdom Hearts 3, Sora will be the thing that stops Xehanort and rescues every single character. Whether he includes the ones from Back Key, Cross, Unchained, I don't know, because this was kind of said before those games started. Key was out, the browser game was out, but none of the mobile game wasn't out yet at this point. So because we don't know what happened with Union Cross's characters, like where did Ephema go, who is Yensid, who is Brain, like we don't know any of this stuff. Whether they're included in his Nomura's crazy logic, we'll have to find out. But that's where we're up to. Xehanort's going around collecting a bunch of nonsense people for his own gain and going to turn them all into Xehanorts. And that's it. Thank you for joining us on this. I don't know where Phantom is, but this has been going on for nearly 2 hours now. and we've covered the story, and I need a drink of water really badly. So I'll answer Phantom's question when he gets back himself. Thank you all for joining us. I hope you are all now really prepared for Kingdom Hearts 3. And you're ready to... oh, Phantom's back. You back?
Okay.
Alright. I was about to wrap up, so if you have a question, get it quickly, and then I'll re-wrap up again.
Okay. So, when Braig is helping Xehanort and his plan at the end of like Birth by Sleep, when they're fighting Aqua and Ventus and stuff.
Okay, yeah.
Was Braig consumed by Xehanort at that time?
Was Braig a Xehanort at that time?
Yeah.
I don't think he was. You can tell when someone's been Xehanorted because their eyes go yellow. And
so
yeah.
So was Braig a nobody at that time?
No, Braig was a regular person at that time, which is why he's called Braig and not Xigbar.
So then that's probably. But when you become a nobody, you don't lose your memories, right?
I don't think so. Roxas lost his memories, but no one else seemed to lose. Because Axel still remembered being friends with Sykes and all that.
Okay, so that's something I never understood, because in 358 over 2 days, towards the end of the game, Xion is fighting Xigbar, and although I didn't understand who that was, I was like, why is Roxas there? It's actually when Xigbar is looking at Xion for a split second, you see Xion turn into Ventus.
Yes. Because
he remembers fighting Ventus.
Yes.
That never made sense to me before, and I guess I get it now. What was that? Yeah, okay. Another thing I still don't get is, so Ansem the Wise and Diz are the same person, right?
Yes, they are.
So who is Ansem the Wise when he has the bandages on, when he's Diz?
He's just in a disguise at that point.
So why is his skin dark?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, he wears makeup.
That's the only thing that makes it really confusing. Because because the thing is that Ansem the Wise, or Diz, and Ansem have like the same voice actors, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yes, so when you see Diz and you see Ansem, the Heartless, you're gonna think they're the same person, because they also have the same skin. So when Diz takes off the mask and is Ansem the Wise, and also the fact that Ansem, well, actually no, now that I think about it, that kind of does make more sense now. Because why would? Because the person in the hood is Riku, helping out Diz, but Riku is technically Ansem, which is why he's covering his face. He doesn't want to be seen as Ansem. He's not proud of that.
Yes.
And so I guess it does kind of make sense that, okay, when he takes off the bandages, it makes sense that that's not Ansem, because Riku is already technically, he looks like Ansem.
Yes.
And this taking off the bandages will just be Ansem the Wise. It just doesn't make sense to me. Why did they make his model dark skin like Ansem when Ansem's already there next to him all the time? It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think it was maybe to create a bait and switch, or maybe just to hide, or maybe they just hadn't finalized Ansem the Wise's end design when they made Diz. I'm not 100% sure the answer to that, other than it just being a weird aesthetic choice.
Yeah.
Like I know that Diz disguises himself as Ansem at one point in Chain of Memories to lure Riku, like, into it, like into Castle. Like, I mean, he's already in Castle Oblivion, but Diz pretends to be Riku, like by telepathically speaking to him and tricking him into thinking he's talking to Ansem, Seeker of Darkness, or Ansem the Heartless at some point. But that's just a disguise, just put on to trick Riku. And I mean, considering he has Stark's, I mean, yeah, because you're right, Diz has dark skin and yellow eyes in Kingdom Hearts 2 as well, where he also then shows up as regular Ansem. With lighter skin, but also yellow eyes. So, unless Ansem is also a Xehanort this whole time.
Well, I mean, Ansem is...
No, I mean Ansem the Wise is a Xehanort as well as Ansem.
I get what you're saying, but it's like, doesn't the yellow... But the yellow comes from Xehanort.
Yeah, the yellow eyes come from Xehanort. I mean, that doesn't mean that Xehanort is exclusively the only yellow-eyed person there, but it is interesting that Ansem the Wise also has yellow eyes.
And Ansem the Wise has technically do with Xehanort, right?
Yeah, I mean, as far as we're aware, Ansem the Wise isn't a Xehanort. The last we saw of Ansem the Wise is that...
No, not that he isn't a Xehanort, but technically, like, they never were the same.
No, Ansem the Wise was never the same person as Xehanort, or the same person as Ansem the Heartless, or the same person as... He knew about Xehanort, and he knew about Ansem, Seeker of Darkness, but he used Ansem, Seeker of Darkness, the Heartless version, to trick Riku, but he never... Yeah. He was never one of them. He was never part of them.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
That's a weird coincidence. Yeah. Kind of stressed, kinda.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the one point I did forget to mention in Dream Drop Distance regarding Ansem the Wise is that Riku finds out from Data Ansem about all of Ansem's reports and stuff being hidden inside of Sora.
Uh-huh.
And Ansem the Wise reveals to Riku that this data that's hidden inside of Sora will be the key to bringing back Ventus, Shion, Roxas, Naminé. Because here's the big thing, and I said it to everyone while you were gone, I'll just sort of paraphrase it to you. Nomura stated in an interview once that by the end of Kingdom Hearts 3, Sora will have saved everybody. And that includes Ventus, Aqua, Terra. Includes those three, obviously. It also includes Riku, Kairi, Mickey, etc. But it also includes Roxas, and Naminé, and Shion, Axel and Sykes, Data Sora, Replica Riku, and anyone else who might be important will get saved by Sora, and potentially even Roxas, Naminé, Shion. They'll all become their own people rather than just being parts of Sora. Somehow. Right. Like, Sora is the key to saving everybody, and that will be explained in Kingdom Hearts 3.
Okay. who is I'm gonna look through footage of gameplay footage right now of playing Dream Distance. I don't own the game. I'm not gonna turn my to try and figure out what it is I really want to talk about. But who is at Dream Drop Distance? Because you finished playing, because Sora's story ends off earlier, and then you finished it at Riku.
Yes.
Who? So, and like Riku has like several final bosses.
Yes.
Who was that guy? The figure when there's final boss at the world that never was. Who is that hooded figure? Whatever.
I don't remember.
Let me try and show you.
I do not remember. The bosses of Dream Drop Distance.
So.
Actually, no, I do remember. It's the weird
the purple and black.
Yeah, I hated that boss fight. It's like it's a
red eyes.
Yeah, it's a Dream Eater.
The Dream Eater?
Yeah, it's a Dream Eater of someone, but I can't remember. It's clearly a Dream Eater inside of Sora.
Okay.
But I don't remember exactly what. Do you remember what his name is?
Defeat anti-black coat nightmare.
What? Anti-black
nightmare.
Coat nightmare.
Yeah. Great. I think he also has a Dream Eater thing on as well.
Yeah, he does. Apparently, according to the wiki, he's just a nightmare Dream Eater that's being used to trap Sora. Like,
okay,
he's what Zenmus is using to trap Sora within a nightmare, and then Riku, who's obviously inside Sora's own dreams, runs into it and kills it, and that's what helps to free Sora.
So after that boss battle, there's a boss battle with Ansem.
Yes. Did
Xehanort bring back Ansem, or did it just bring back as an old Xehanort? Did old man just get Xemnas and young Xehanort also get Ansem?
I mean, old Xehanort brought all of them back. I mean, old Xehanort planned, and then Amnus, Seeker of Heartless Ansem went and got young Xehanort, and then young Xehanort went and then got Ansem and Zenmus and brought them all to like the present day, basically.
So why is Ansem inside?
Why is because Ansem is just why is Ansem where? Sorry.
why is Ansem inside Sora? Because the anti-black coat knight, you fight them in like this world of dark. I don't know if it's actually the world of darkness, but it's like a void of darkness.
Yeah, no, I remember. I think that they're just there sort of manipulating Sora, like they're within dreams trying to mess with Sora. Like they're jumping in and out of dreams as well, trying to lure Sora away and corrupt him.
Yeah, and then you fight young Xehanort.
Yes.
Something like that, yeah.
And that young Xehanort is fought, I think it's, because they don't make it very clear whether he's fought within dreams. I think
they're in the world that never was, like some type of time shift, because it goes from, because Lee appears with Mickey, and then the boss battle takes place with young Xehanort and Riku.
Yeah. So
I think it's either the world that never was or like some type of time thing, because there's clearly like they show like there's the time has some effect on the battles on the battlefield, where like you see all these like
clocks and everything, and you freeze time.
Yeah, you see all the clocks, but it still has the aesthetic of the world that never was.
Yeah.
And then after that, there's another. I think there's like another boss after that or something like that.
No, you fight like he has two forms, young Xehanort, but that's the final boss. He has two forms. But once you beat him, that ends it.
Okay.
I remember. All right, I think if you've got any more questions, we might do it off stream because it's getting nearly to 2 hours now, and I was wrapping up before you showed up again.
Okay.
With that, so I want to thank you for coming on for these 2 hours with me, Phantom.
No problem.
And I want to thank everyone who stuck around to listen to all of this. I hope you're all prepared now for Kingdom Hearts 3, which will come out next Friday.
Oh!
Whoa, what was that?
Okay, yeah. There is another boss. You're fighting Ventus's dark armor or something like that inside Sora's heart, I think. Okay, so that basically explains itself. I don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, thank you everyone for joining me. Thank you for Phantom for joining me.
No problem.
I hope you all enjoy Kingdom Hearts 3 when it comes out. I know I'll be playing it, and maybe some of this nonsense will be explained.
Are you gonna review it?
I'm not getting it to review, so maybe not. We'll see.
Okay.
But alright, thanks everyone for tuning in, and have a good rest of your Sunday.
Heck yeah. See ya.